so much for that countdown, Jordan.
We got a real deal countdown. What's up, everybody?
You don't wanna hear
Welcome
my
to the
off-air.
Alfalfa podcast presented by Z-Biotics. We're live, boys. How's it
Yay,
going?
Green
Hey.
Day.
It's a Green Day. Happy Green Day.
Those are good, right?
Yeah, Green Days are good.
Okay.
You might.
Does Steven like those?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
He also likes birthdays.
J Powell gave him the best birthday gift.
Best birthday gift. Happy birthday, bud.
Mr. Cesaro.
We miss you. We know you're at the dinner table, one AirPod in, listening to us. So give us a little heart
He's
emoji.
almost 50, right?
Yeah.
49? 39 or 49?
He's 40-something.
Whatever. We love you, Steven. We miss you. And enjoy your day off. You've been working hard.
Yeah, we
Been
give the
working
poor
real
guy
hard.
a day off.
Yeah. We shouldn't have allowed it. We should have been like, nah, man, we need you.
Yeah, we need a thumbnail, dude.
No thumbnail.
Yeah, that's what happens when Steven takes off.
All right, let's do a quick check because I see a comment about choppiness. Let's get a quick from the
Yeah, I think
chat.
we're good.
All right, looks like majority is good. All
Okay,
right, keep
cool.
us posted, Jensinius.
Well, while we're at it, what's up to the chat? Thanks for joining us. Paradox, good to see you in there. Hookem, Edmund, Jensinius, Adam, what's up? It's nice that we've met most of these people in person.
Can
Beautiful
we
thing.
ask? Emma wants to know what everyone's drinking.
Ooh.
I agree. I'd like everyone to share what they're drinking.
I'm drinking what's left of that Clase Azul. What do you got in there, sir?
Yeah, it's working.
Oh,
I'm
wait, do you
a
have the
few
same?
sips
We're
in.
all on the leftover Clase Azul, and I got a Pacifico just has a
Is that your
sipper behind it.
That's a classic DJ right there. That's
We have
And
a
behind
lot
that,
of...
ranch water. Oh man.
If you're watching on YouTube, you can see our little bar, or maybe part of it. But yeah, there's a lot of like little leftover guys. We might have to have some cleanup weeks, make some room for the new year.
Yeah, I'm gonna need a Z-Biotics for that because that's how you get a proper hangover morning.
I took mine.
Yeah, did you?
I did.
Good lad.
Good lad. Let's give him a shout out.
Yes.
So URL is zbiotics.com/alfalfa. Probably last chance to get in some orders before holiday season.
Donation from Rectum. Happy birthday, Stephen. May your lines stay magical and your position.
Wow. Can you put that on the screen, Jordan?
Oh, that's beautiful.
I'm gonna
Thank you, Rectum, for the happy birthday post from Steven.
Yeah, what did he say?
He said,
I don't
may
think-
all your lines stay magical and your positions stay irrational.
Wow.
Rational.
And he sent that all the way from Albania.
Wow.
I'd just like to clarify. Wow.
Thank you, sir.
You're the man, Edmund.
Thanks, bud.
We appreciate you. Love you, dude. Thank you. I'll make sure Steven gets at least 10% of that, by the way. Those are my fees.
So, Jordan, if you could post a link in the chat for Z-Biotics and get it before the holidays end and then in time for New Year's. You guys got any big New Year's plans?
No.
No?
No, Z-Biotics is the start, though.
Yeah, I mean, I got...
I have a baby.
I
This
think
is the first year with a baby, so I don't know. Is this like when things change and you don't make it to midnight anymore?
we're
Although
going
I
to do a
already
little
was having
cabin
you-
time. Maybe I'll have like a half a bottle of wine.
Okay.
Where are you guys going?
Lake Arrowhead.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
Wow. Is that what engaged people do?
That's what engaged people do.
Sounds pretty romantic.
Yeah. Fiance doesn't really drink, so I'll take my Z-Biotics and
Okay.
enjoy.
And do some
Half
journaling.
a bottle, maybe a bottle. Do some
a little
journaling, some
marshmallow
goal planning.
toasting. What are we thinking here?
We did do some goal planning last year.
Okay.
Got the post-it notes up on the board.
Yeah.
Let's see. Check out the money back guarantee. Go to zbiotics.com/alfalfa to check it out. Got a few quick announcements. So we have our winner from the second Z-Biotics giveaway. So
Is it me?
it is not you, sir. You do not qualify.
Shit.
You already get your free Z-Biotics.
All right.
All right. So 0x Lucas.
Ooh.
He's the big winner this week.
Nice
Lucas,
job,
congratulations,
Lucas.
sir.
Yeah. Keeps it easy for us when these addresses have some ENS names, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So Lucas is definitely a top holder and spending his own precious ETH on our episodes. So salute to you, sir. Give an email out to alfalfapod@gmail.com. Send us your full name and address, and we'll get that shipped out.
Awesome.
And last week's winner, it's just Mike. Your Z-Biotics on the way, sir. So
Hell yeah.
nice
Just
little
in time.
Q4 giveaways for the end of the year. I like it.
Yeah, I like the idea of a little pack for the holidays?
Stocking stuffers, I think, are a great idea.
Yeah, I got a few for.
What's a
stocking
small
stuffers.
pack? What's a small pack?
I
Is
think it goes as low as three.
three? Good
Three.
stocking
It's
stuffer.
perfect stocking stuffer.
Well, you guys
Yeah.
know what you got for Christmas.
I would. I'll take
Yeah,
all.
gladly.
I'll take as much of it as. Yeah, yeah. I do drink, unlike your fiance.
Yeah.
So, yes, please.
Okay. What do you want to talk about first? We got a little agenda. I know you organized it for me, Armand, but can you remind me?
Well, I needed the ordering to be correct. For my brain.
Well, I did want to talk about this Ohtani contract. What's his first name?
Shohei,
Shohei Ohtani. So
largest deal in sports history.
Sports history.
You wanted to hear about Techstars, but
I did.
yeah. Do you want Oshani or Momani
Yeah, let's
first,
go into
or-
that. And then I
I
want to
thought
hear.
that was what was first.
Sean Romani.
Did we? Are we axing that?
No, we're not axing it.
All right, because it'll be very brief.
So Shohei Ohtani got a $700 million contract. It's the largest in sports, definitely the largest in baseball. The LA Dodgers signed him. And I thought it was interesting to talk about because this deal structure is so weird. People may have seen it if you're interested in sports, but the $700 million is spread out over 20 years. The first 10 years, he gets $2 million a year. So he's essentially getting $20 million. over the
Dramatically underpaid.
so poor.
and then the last 10 years, he's getting $68 million a year. So he back-weighted his pay. And I thought it so fascinating because if you take the net present value of those cash flows and use a 10% discount rate, the present value of those cash flows is only $173 million. So that's 25% of the total. And then I looked at I think the next biggest was Aaron Judge. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah.
Yeah, Yankees. He was paid $40 million per year over 9 years, so a $360 million contract, and it looks like his net present value is $256 million, so about 50% higher than Ohtani. So I don't know. I thought this deal structure was intriguing. Like, why would someone even do that? And then it's also just a great showcase for the time value of money that this thing is severely discounted based upon how far those cash flows are pushed out.
Yeah, I think this is like a good demonstration of like people who don't understand the time value of money. If like you didn't study finance, like then you wouldn't know this principle necessarily. And I feel like athletes are often sort of taken advantage of with their financials. I saw some crazy number that like 80% of professional athletes end up bankrupt because they just don't know.
God,
And I know that like Shohei's camp has responded.
What a waste.
So they've responded to this. They
Okay.
said like, well, the reason why we set it up this way is because we have so many sponsorship deals right now coming in. I think he's making like $45 million a year in sponsorship. So he doesn't actually like, in his mind, he's like, I don't need more money now.
So to that point, he's not just an American baseball player. He's from Japan. He's a global player. When I was in Japan, he was on every other like taxi commercial. Every time I hop in a taxi, he was everywhere. So yeah, he's got global.
And the reason
appeal.
why he's getting paid so much is because he's like a modern Babe Ruth. He's pitching at an elite level and he's hitting at an elite level. The guy is like probably the best player of all time. Just like in absolute terms.
Really?
Just like
Already?
in terms
we can
of
say,
in terms of skill set. I mean, like I'm
Yeah.
not saying that he's the greatest career of all time. Just like
Okay.
in terms
And
of
what
skill.
year is he in?
This is year one starting
Year
now.
one.
Yeah.
Oh no,
Coming
well you
from
mean
Japan.
how many years has he been playing?
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't know the number, but handful.
4 years.
Yeah.
So he's still pretty young.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So I don't know. I find this fascinating from a personal finance level. Like I think we would know what we would want, which is like you want it as soon as possible, just like the lottery. When you win a $700 million lottery,
Yeah.
you take the haircut and you get
It's
all
really
the money up
interesting.
front, not the payments spread out over 25 years.
Yeah, but it takes the right people around you. If you didn't learn this in school, it takes the right people around you, the right advisors to teach you this. I always get hit by these. Like I've been playing more on YouTube Shorts, and like the algo is starting to really get to know me. It's probably basically like similar to a TikTok experience. What do we get there, Jordan? Paradox says,
Ooh.
"Happy birthday, Steven." with
Thank
a
you,
donation.
Paradox.
Thank you, Paradox.
Yes, I'll also make sure he gets at least 10% of that. I'll buy you a drink and drink most of it, Steven. No, so the like there's these really great videos of like Shaq, Magic Johnson, a lot of like basketball players talking about how they got around. There was one in particular, I think it's a really great story. Magic Johnson at one point reached out to the Lakers administration and he said, I would like to meet every single person who has floor seats. And they're like, of course they'd love to meet you. He's like, can I get their numbers? So he started reaching out to these people and scheduling lunches with them. And he took them all out one by one. And they were, of course, like, I get to have lunch with Magic Johnson. He's being like, may I please take you out? Because he wanted to pick their brains. And he asked them all individually, what did you do to become wealthy and afford these seats? And over time, he built a network of wealthy, smart people and advisors and learned how to manage his money. Shaq talked about having advisors that taught him what to invest in, whether it be Google or Meta or certain stocks that he should be looking at, how to build businesses, how to angel invest.
He's got a ton of franchises.
Tons, right? And he's done such a good job investing. So if you look at like the athlete world, they all make good money. But the ones that make very good money and continue to do so and have brands and identities outside of sport are the ones that got around the right people that had really, really great advisors to be around. So it goes back to the rule of like, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So I can understand why somebody that comes from a background that didn't care about finance in school and is all of a sudden gets a huge contract put in front of them that's 90 pages and their attorney's too lazy to read it and they're definitely not going to read it, gets scammed. Maybe scam is too strong of a word.
Taken advantage of.
Yeah, but definitely gets taken advantage of.
Well, I think you did a good job of bringing it back around.
Is this the case with this deal is my question.
I don't think so, but I feel like I'm missing. This guy has a reason.
So I like that you brought Magic into the mix because he's actually a part owner of the Dodgers. So he was actually on the side offering the deal.
Okay.
And of course the Dodgers want to offer the deferred payment, because they get the benefit of the time value of money. And I guess like, I don't know, the Dodgers are just like the latest franchise to implement this tactic. Like I think so many teams have been doing this. The Nationals did it with Steven Strasburg's contract. That was like our fellow alum of San Diego State.
Yep.
So this is happening a lot in baseball specifically. And
would you say that whatever happens is fair because ultimately it's a negotiation of two parties?
It's a contract.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's fair. I just think that these guys probably need a little better guidance. But also what I noticed, because like I study this stuff and I'm in it, and I actually wanted a career doing sort of like finance for sports.
Mm-hmm.
When the teams and like agents get together, they use a discount rate for these contracts that's like significantly lower than what we would use.
Do you know what it is?
Back when I was looking at it in 2021, it was like 4% discount rate.
Oh, that's crazy low.
Now, the risk-free rate has come up, so I think they're using a higher discount rate. But I know you did that like NPV calculation for Shohei's at 170 million or whatever. The Dodgers actually in their books are accounting for it, and like the MLB is accounting for it at 460 million. So that's the discount rate that they're using.
So they're using
less than 10%.
Way less. Yeah. So let me bring up Adam Snyder's comment in the chat. He said the payment schedule massively reduces his tax bracket and leaves the Dodgers with money to stack the team for a World Series run. I think it's brilliant. So I was thinking there maybe are some tax advantages. I don't know about Adam. I don't know about the tax bracket thing because if he's getting $40-50 million a year, anyway from
he's saying.
Sponsors.
I think he's saying from the Dodger side. But I did see that who's Pomp's little brother? Is that Joe? Joe Pomp? Okay, so Joe Pomp is like a sports guy, and he actually dropped some alpha here. He said that if you defer payment over a 10-year or more time horizon, then you actually pay state taxes from where you're domiciled, not where you're working.
So basically, he's going to move from California to Nevada
and
or
save
whatever,
some money on that state tax.
I mean, that makes sense. The question is like, what's the net present value of those less taxable cash flows, and I don't imagine it's greater. So I don't know. I just thought it was like something fascinating. We always talk about personal finance whenever we're around a table, and this was like an intriguing one because he's got smart people. I read a write-up on his agent. His agent's not dumb. he's definitely creative. And I imagine he's got, managers in Japan that are also helping him out. So
Also, you have to look at like that's the offer. Like you don't accept that offer, you get a different offer. If you say I want you to front load more cash, you're not going to get the same offer. So it's all at the end of the day, both parties have to be happy. That's where they landed.
When do we start Alfalfa Sports Agency?
You're going to have to be the
here's
driver of that
just because I'm obsessed with this. If he would have taken a $600 million offer, $60 million per year, the net present value would have been $368 million, which is quite a bit over double.
Yeah.
So if he would have just taken $100 million off the top,
Not deferred it.
but not defer it, I mean, he would essentially had more than twice the
Well,
money.
the Dodgers wouldn't have done that because they're run by Guggenheim partners. They're like literally the smartest guys in the room. They're the ones who game the system. Like,
Fascinating. All right, I scratched that itch.
Okay.
So we should
What's
kind of
next?
formally welcome you back, maybe
Okay.
consistently
You
to
want
the
to do
pod.
that now?
Yeah, I do.
yeah, it's
don't-
nice to have you back. Bro.
I'm out next week.
Are you? Shit.
No. But if we're down to do virtual, which I think would be fun.
A lot of people have some travel next
yeah,
week and the
it's
following week.
Christmas week and stuff. So maybe 2 weeks of the old Zoom action back on the virtuals
Cool.
would be pretty cool. But yeah, it's good to be back.
So you finished Techstars like a handful of days ago, and it
Yeah.
finished in demo day.
Right.
And we obviously had a chance to chat about it a little bit. Eric hasn't heard about it.
Yeah.
Can you maybe
Oh,
paint
yeah,
the
you weren't at
picture
the
for
dinner.
what demo day is?
Can we talk about the epic dinner we had with Dave?
Yep.
So we did a multi-celebratory dinner. We missed you, Eric, on Saturday at our favorite restaurant, Cowboy Star. This is like a
Steakhouse.
little tradition we have with David. We were just texting earlier. It's like minimum once a year. This is necessary. And I'm trying to up it to quarterly. And it was great because we were all celebrating something. Your engagement, Steven's birthday, David's going off on this huge adventure, me finishing Techstars. So it was great. But yeah, man, I mean,
nice 3 to 4 hour dinner. I
it
think
was literally 3.5 hours.
Yeah,
it
it
was
was great.
amazing. It was amazing. So finished this, 3.5 month stint where I've been in an immersion, in a very immersive setting, building with 11 other startups, 30 founders, and yeah, man, getting shit done and grinding. And there's a bit of a change for sure. Thursday was demo day. Friday was like the goodbye dinner. We had like some really cool stuff we did, just kind of people going around, sharing thoughts, debriefing. And yeah, it's bittersweet.
So tell us more about demo day. Like paint the picture. How many people are there? What's it like?
Yeah, so demo days, demo days in general are really cool events where, in particular for Techstars, the way it's set up is at the end of the accelerator, each startup gets up, the CEO of each startup gets up and does a pitch and does a presentation to investors and the community and basically shares like, okay, here's where we're at and here's what we've created and here's our product. And kind of basically a sort of it's very much like a commemoration, not a commemoration. It's almost like it's a celebration. It's a celebration of like what you've done and what you've achieved. But also, huge investor network is there. So I think we had about 450, maybe close to 500 people in attendance. We did it at beautiful venues, Snapdragon Stadium, which is the new stadium in San Diego. It used to be the former Qualcomm Stadium where the San Diego Chargers played, and they renovated that thing, and it's beautiful. There's this area, Cox Business Center, where it's like right at the 50-yard line where you come in, and there's this huge, just like open space and big bar and all this stuff, and a nice little stage that we set up. And yeah, man, I mean, each company got up, did like a 3-4 minute, very brief, but like very dialed, rehearsed, ready to go. This is where we're at. Little presentation.
You haven't said it yet, but you crushed it. Yeah.
I mean, I felt great about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I appreciate you saying that, even though you didn't see it, but you'll
could
see
tell.
it.
I
And,
get-
and
you-
I was proud.
Yeah.
I was like really proud that, I kept in mind something that you and I have talked about when I've been preparing for speeches in the past. One of the really cool pieces of alfalfa you gave me was amateurs practice until they get it right. and professionals practice until they can't get it wrong. And I practiced the fuck out of this thing, man. Because I had this other like Shark Tank AI pitch event that I did like a few weeks previous to that. Probably did 60 to 70 run-throughs of that pitch with people, myself in a mirror, obsessive, crazy person level. So I'd already gone through that once a few weeks before for a very different pitch. This time I think I got to like 50 plus as
Hell
well.
yeah.
And I mean, when you get to 50 plus range, you're so dialed in, but you still get nervous.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
It's still
But like
real.
you can go on autopilot. Like
You
you
go on
can feel
autopilot.
nervous, nauseous.
Yeah, it's
and
terrible.
like you can still speak the words. And I don't know where I read this. I don't know why it's popped in my head, but I heard that Taylor Swift, when she prepares, will run on the treadmill and just sing the whole set over and over while she's on the treadmill because she's going to be exhausted from performing. But she can still go on autopilot and do the whole set.
What a champion.
Yeah. I remember when I was preparing for this, like, it was like I won some essay contest in 8th grade, and they were like, you're going to go present it. And I was like, cool, I'll read it. And my mom was like, you will not read it. And set up a tape recorder and was like, just keep going.
Okay, give us the first 2 lines right now.
Yeah, I don't know if I could I could give it to you right now. But
if
yeah,
you've ever
I mean,
seen someone get up and read, it's like I'd rather have somebody stumble through
yeah,
a terrible job, but like not read.
then read. Yeah.
It's a huge difference. But yeah, that was really cool to get to do that. So the way a demo day goes is like you have your demo table, you have a bunch of people there, people are coming up to your table beforehand, having a drink, saying hello. I don't get to have a drink yet. I went last. We had 12 companies, and I had to go last. But it was great. You know, it was just like bring it home, you know, kind of close strong kind of thing. And then, oh my God, could I not wait for that drink though? Like an hour of lunatic level pacing around while my other, you know, founding teams were like pitching, and just like, by the time I went up, it was like so high energy. So you get to pick your song, they play your song. It's like high energy.
Walkout
You go
song?
out,
Holy
walkout
shit.
song, the whole thing.
What was your song?
Oh, you'd love it. Easy Love.
Oh, yeah.
You know that song? Yeah, I wanted
do.
something peppery, spicy.
That's a great
upbeat,
song.
You know, really like positive.
Segala?
Because the
Fuck yeah.
opening I had for my pitch was like a bit of it was a joke. And I also knew that I needed to close really, really strong, and that people were going to be dying at the end of that.
To go to the
you know?
bar.
Yeah, to go
Yeah.
to the bar. So I had this just like thing that I had to do, and I needed the energy to be really high
Good.
instead
Smart.
of serious. So I did the pitch, had a drink, met a ton of people. A lot of people came up to the booth. Yeah, it's a big celebration.
So I know it's not a competition, but did you win?
No, I mean, no, it isn't a competition, but things like this are a competition. And I think maybe this is what you want me to talk about, is like things in life are a competition in the sense that resources at times are rare, right? Resource of attention, resource of capital allocation, resource of special perks. And so part of the perspective that I tried to carry through my experience with Techstars is like they're picking 12 companies to be a part of this cohort that are vastly different. Of the 12 companies, 5 of them were like pretty AI, like AI core, but like pretty much every company is AI now. It's kind of silly to call yourself an AI company. It's not a vertical.
We're already there.
It's not a sector. It is. We're there.
Wow.
Like you're either AI in your core or in the middle or on top. And if you're not doing AI on top, at least to like improve your user experience and help sort of automate a few basic tasks, then you're kind of going to be left behind. So everything's AI, but yet the companies are different enough. And so I tried to really take an approach with every company from day one where, you know, this isn't my first rodeo either. And a lot of times when you're new to this kind of thing of entrepreneurship, it's like people feel very competitive. And I really wanted to disarm all the other founders and make them feel like we're here to collaborate and win, because the more we help each other and look better, the better demo day is going to go and the more money we all raise, and everything's going to go better as a result of that. At the same time, and there's a lot of resources out there of people, money, connections, whatever. But sometimes, you know, it's limited. there is some scarcity, certain people that you want to get in touch with, a certain mentor whose time you want. If one person is available to mentor one company, that's kind of a big deal. And so I just tried to approach things as like putting my best forward in every single way possible so that I could attract the best resources that I possibly could. And in that regard, I feel super proud of how we showed up, and I do feel like I won.
And you prepped your own team saying this is
Yeah.
they said it's not a competition, but this is a competition and we're going to win because there's a limited number of resources.
And to clarify what I meant by that when I told them that is like, I'm a very competitive person, and I want them, even like MJ in practice is telling his teammates like, this is a fucking competition. Kobe mentality, like this is a competition. Like I mean that in the sense that like, even though we're friendlies, we need to show up like every single day like this is war. War sounds really extreme to people that aren't founders, but I really mean it. Like to a certain degree, like when you enter the realm of entrepreneurship, you're in a battlefield. And so you have to have a bit of a sick mentality of like, this is not for fun.
Right.
You have to show up that way. Because if you don't show up that way, you start to kind of just take that backseat, comfortable approach. And that's where you start to lose resources, you lose momentum. And when you lose momentum, you die. Like that's it.
So I had 3 more questions because I just want to like before you went in this, you were reading off some stats about what are the benefits of getting into these accelerators, incubators. First question is, do you feel like your product is better now that you've gone through the gauntlet? Do you feel like you have a better idea of product market fit now versus when you started? We're just talking about 90 days ago.
I can't even imagine where we would be without it. I mean, it's really hard to imagine. I don't really want to, because where we're at right now is I'm in a place where I have true clarity. You never have full clarity, like in the sense of like, exactly what you're doing and there's no pivots left, or you're always learning, right? You're always learning from your market and you're always adjusting and iterating. But like the clarity I have of at least I know what my next step is tomorrow, sometimes you don't have that.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't even know, I can't even imagine where we'd be. I can guarantee we wouldn't be here. I can guarantee it. I mean, the number of people that are now on my team that are helping us, that are checking in with me, that are just like there to make sure that we succeed, that's worth everything. I had nobody. It was just me and my co-founders, and that's it. Nobody else gives a fuck if we succeed or die. Like nobody. But now we have people that really care and are there. And like that's everything. So yeah, we have much more clarity. We have a vastly different product. We have a vastly different market that we're serving than what we went into Techstars with. I mean, we had a true proper pivot.
Cool.
Not as big of like, I was a video game and then I became Slack, or, one of those types of pivots that are like famous stories of like Notion, or Slack, like not that severe. Because a lot of those companies had to get down to where there was like, they crumbled and there was nothing left. And they're like, what do we create from the ashes? For us, it was like forcing function. We have to figure this out quickly. What is it going to be? Talk to enough real users and customers to know where to go. So
cool.
Yeah, no, amazing.
Then the last 2 questions were, when you originally showed off the stats, it was like companies who go through this have X% higher probability of raising a Series A, and then X% higher probability of exiting. So just curious, obviously
if I remember
it's still very
correctly,
early, but
if I remember
how do you
correctly, companies that go through Techstars in particular, 78% of them go on to raise a proper round of capital after the Techstars money, which is incredible. And then 31 or 32% exit.
Wow.
So if you consider that like the average startup 9 out of 10, 9.5 out of 10 fail, so what is my likelihood of success? And then, I would proudly say that I'm one of the, more advantage, I'm going to take as much advantage as I can of like everything we've gone through. So if on average 31% exit, I'd like to think I'm on the higher side of that. So I don't know, maybe it's a coin flip now.
Yeah.
And so coin flip versus 5%. All right. We're talking about an order of magnitude.
I take those odds.
That's 10x. So a 10x improvement. I haven't thought about this. I'm just doing it out loud. But that would mean that that's anywhere from like a 7 to 10x more likelihood of exiting and succeeding without having gone through an accelerator, without having gone through this accelerator. And I said this when we talked about this the first time, but there are good ones and there are bad ones. And you obviously want to go for one of the big ones, like Y Combinator, Techstars.
Yeah.
Those are the really good big
Well,
ones.
appreciate you eating glass and going through all that to share us the alpha post. Like
Yeah, man.
that it actually does. You feel much better placed to.
Oh,
Dude, not only
raise-
with
I can't
not only with
imagine.
Steno, I just feel like you going through his experience is going to make you a better leader, a better
Yeah.
CEO, a better businessman. Like you're just gonna take so much out of it.
I just feel like a way more serious founder. Like I said, it's not my first rodeo, but I've learned more in these 3 months than I can possibly imagine. It's easy to say 3 months versus 3 years for sure. 3 years of accelerated.
Yeah, and sometimes just
experience.
being a week with someone who is a different level than you, just by sitting next to them or talking to them, like you just instantly level up. You're like, oh, he thinks differently. He approaches problems differently. I remember when I was in a company, I realized they looked at data way differently than I did before. And just when they would tackle problems, the first thing they'd do is pull up a spreadsheet and
Right.
tackle a problem. I never done that before. And
Right.
just by watching them do a few reps, I was like, oh, this is how it's done.
Now I know you do.
Yeah.
And I mean, just one final thing, and I'll also just like a general, if anyone is interested in such a avenue, I'll give like a quick like how to. But like the fact that I get to be in contact with like extremely successful people now that have a vested interest in me succeeding, like real mentors. We had 96 mentors throughout this 3 months that were available to us at any time. And, to be friends with, like, shout out to a few companies like Trust and Will. I mentioned these at dinner. Cody Barbo, incredible entrepreneur, came out of San Diego State, is building a unicorn in the, in that services space of like literally trusts and wills. So if you need one and you're a dad now, you should probably check them out. The founder of GoFundMe, Andy Ballister, has been a huge supporter. He's a contributor to the program and a direct investor and so much more, and has been like openly available. Guy, I don't even know, exited for $500 million. So people like that, Zeb of ClickUp, just being able to talk to him and have a relationship with him. So it's been incredible. And depending on which, I would say, do Techstars, because I had a really great experience. Depending on which one you do, you're going to get a different mentor pool and a mentor network in addition to the overall network.
Yeah.
But like, for example, Techstars just launched Techstars Tokyo this morning. So like if you're in Tokyo or you want to go to Tokyo to do a 3-month accelerator, you can. And if you have questions about it, just email me.
Because a lot of your cohort in San
happy to help.
Diego were not from San Diego. They're from all over the world.
Correct. Most were not from San Diego. And the most amazing thing is I think all but a couple are moving to San Diego to run their companies here. Even the ones that came from Norway and Portugal and Boston and whatever, they're moving here to build their companies in San Diego.
And that's a huge feather in the cap for guys that want to build out like this
Yeah.
startup infrastructure
Right.
in a city. Like I'm a San Diegan. I feel like I'm going to be here forever. Like this sounds like money well spent. This is like great ROI.
Yeah. And we're going to have a whole innovation district in San Diego that's being built. And it's going to be pretty amazing.
Well,
So
I think it's important that we just go through it because, like, we have current entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs, intrapreneurs within big companies. So I don't know.
yeah,
I
a
feel
lot
like
of
you just got-
entrepreneurs out there, right?
Yeah.
That have a dream and want to take a crack at building something. And I'll just say, like, it's never too early. It's never too, maybe sometimes too late. If you're already 10 million in revenue, it's probably too late. But there are companies that do $1 million in revenue that still join, accelerators. And there are companies that have an idea, as early as just an idea and a founding team, the right problem, you can get going immediately. So yeah, if you want advice from me, just email me, Armon@Steno.ai.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into some predictions for 2024. Van Eck, sponsor of one of the Bitcoin ETFs and also an Ethereum ETF, I believe, and kind of just a crypto-centric investment firm, put out some predictions for 2024. So I don't know, I figure we can scan through these. If you just kind of like, yeah, of course it is, skip it. But I'm curious if you guys have any takes on this one. So first prediction, U.S. recession will finally arrive, but so will the first spot Bitcoin ETF. Over 2.4 billion may flow in these ETFs in Q1 to support Bitcoin's price. So if we have a recession, is Bitcoin price going down, or because of the recession, or are these inflows going to prop up the price?
I think no recession and Bitcoin price goes higher.
I think mild recession, Bitcoin price will go down, but like second half of the year when those inflows start to kick in, yeah, I think it's good times.
I don't know about either of those, but I know the ETF's going to happen.
Okay.
That I feel very good about.
Yeah.
That's all I care about. Like,
Yeah.
Is this thing getting approved?
Yeah.
Let's hope so, because
If it
I am.
doesn't-
So the reason I say that obviously is just because there's never been a time where these signals and indicators have shown where it doesn't happen. So
I feel like
there have been unprecedented things that happen, but
I
would
see all
hope
these
this is not one of
revisions
those.
getting put out. I feel like the SEC is talking with these guys, being like, revise this, check this, and they're just spitting out revisions in hopes that it get approved. Okay, second prediction: the fourth Bitcoin halving in 2024 will see minimal market disruption and a post-halving rise in Bitcoin's price with significant gains for some low-cost miners. So, just as a reminder, when a halving happens, those miners' revenue cuts in half.
Yeah.
And I think last year there was a fuck ton of near bankruptcies.
Worst business model ever.
Incredibly business, where it's like pre-programmed that your business revenue will just continue to have.
But we're not acknowledging the fact that these miners are stacking Bitcoin on their balance sheets right now. And if the price of Bitcoin goes, these things are going to a level that like no one's gonna see. Like
Regardless,
yeah, like no one's gonna find those stock prices rational, and that was like why we were pitching it on Irresponsibly Long, and here like Mara, Riot, and the rest.
and so far it's been right. So is it because they're kind of Sailorized stocks, meaning they hold so much Bitcoin that it just kind of goes up with Bitcoin at a higher beta? Doesn't matter if they have negative operating margins at some point.
Yes, because the businesses are terrible.
I had a second thought. Do you think anyone will do something similar for ETH, Solana, or just name any token where they're like,
We're just going to be like a stack ETH business.
yeah, like it could be a shell company, or it could be a company that spits off profits. Or you could do one of those reverse mergers into a public company that's kind of like a shell of itself.
That's a good
and
question.
Just stack ETH.
It's a good question. It would require ETH price to moon first, I think, because without that, like, I don't know if you've noticed because you guys are like operating your own businesses, but like crypto's mooning and ETH is not really mooning. So like you can't sell that if ETH price is not going.
Right. Okay.
But that's interesting.
All right. Prediction number 3, Bitcoin will make an all-time high in Q4 of 2024, potentially spurred on by political events. I think we're talking about and regulatory shifts by a U.S. presidential election. So I think Biden no good for crypto, RFK good, Trump probably good. He just launched some new NFTs yesterday.
Did he really?
Yeah. And who's else? I don't know what Nikki Haley's position is. Probably not great. Vivek good.
By Gavin.
Oh, Gavin? No. Well, no, definitely not. I actually don't know, but my hunch is not. So anyway, basically what the prediction is we hit peak price Q4 2024.
No, that just says
fast
a new all-time high. It doesn't say peak, does it?
Oh. It does say all-time high. So
That doesn't mean peak. That just
No.
means it breaks through the 69K high water mark.
so that's what?
Yeah, that's the way I
50%
took it
up
too.
from here? I think that's a reasonable.
So what happened to the flippening, guys?
That's a prediction. Next prediction. He says it
I
will
thought,
not.
I thought ETH was supposed to be the leader here.
Well, hold
Yes.
on.
Am I jumping?
Not only that, I just think that I think that ETH can flip in Bitcoin in a much longer term time horizon. Like we didn't expect it to be right now. Like
Okay.
nobody did. I don't think anyone did.
It's
Maybe
a grower, not a shower.
I know
Armand, is
that's what
he's
you.
saying.
I
right?
know that.
Maybe
but
David Hoffman
most
did.
people expected ETH to be the front runner of this cycle.
I don't think so.
What?
I don't think it's
It's like
gonna be
all we've ever talked about.
I don't think it's going to be the front runner. I think it's going to be the faster
That's
horse.
literally the reason why. Yeah, the faster horse.
over the
But not
length,
out of the gate.
over the duration of the cycle. Like it's
okay.
it's
By the end of the
like
cycle, then.
Bitcoin always leads,
Okay.
so it's leading.
Okay.
But like
but then there will be
I think it happened last cycle too, where Bitcoin was mooning. Like this is how I got into ETH in 2019. My first ever ETH purchase was like Bitcoin went up to 16,000, I don't remember what I bought my first Bitcoin 12,000, then 16,000. I was like, fuck, I don't want to buy this anymore. ETH was $400. I was like, okay, buy that. So I think like ETH will sort of become the faster horse, not the fastest.
So it will become you believe it'll become the faster horse.
Eventually, but
Okay.
Bitcoin always leads.
All right.
Yeah, I'm of the same mind. There's a little bit of seasonality and kind of sequence that seems to happen. Like the money flows into Bitcoin, and then as it goes up, it just kind of the rotation trades happen.
Yeah, because all this talk about rotating into Bitcoin from Bitcoin into ETH
And this
risk
rotation is so
ratios
obvious to me because you have this like Bitcoin ETF that you're certain is going to get approved, which I am also pretty certain that's going to get approved. Like what's happening to Bitcoin price now in advance of approval? It's going higher. So like what's like the next logical step? It's like, well, ETH ETF would be next. So what's going to happen to the money? They're going to pile into ETH to like front run
Yeah,
the
ETH
ETF.
is getting kind of sandwiched by like Solana
It is.
and Bitcoin, and I think it'll have its day. I think that the metrics will prove itself. There's another prediction in here.
Needs a
which-
narrative, man. Needs
Actually,
an
this-
exciting narrative that's not technology focused.
This is the next prediction, which is EIP 4844 implementation. Layer 2s will become significantly will actually gain the majority of TVL and trading volume. So now I don't know what it is to trade on, I don't know, 50 cents or something, whatever it is.
No, that sounds like such low hanging fruit. That's like obvious to
Yeah,
me.
so it's going to go down by a factor of 10. It sounds like
Trading volume. I mean, give me a break. Of course.
Yeah. So trading volume, and because the fees will be lower, they'll rival Solana, and money will shift over. But to flip in Bitcoin, I mean, we're at like a 0.05 ratio. I think we have to be like 0.15. So it's got to take a pretty big jump. I also don't know if it's going to happen in 2024. I still like the Bitcoin to ETH rotation trade, like you're saying, leading up to the ETF launch, probably as peak orange coin as it's going to get.
Right. So wouldn't you want to wait?
No, I think like you want to be slightly ahead of it. Like
Yeah.
I've been kind of slowly swapping my Bitcoin for ETH,
'Kay.
and I think I want to have all of it swapped before the ETF
Before.
launch.
Bold move, Cotton.
Yep, bold strategy. Okay, here we go. Prediction number 6: NFT activity will rebound to an all-time high, with Ethereum leading and Bitcoin gaining traction via ordinals.
This is a hotter take.
This is a hot take.
Yeah, and so
I hope he's right.
I don't know what the current ratio
They
is.
are-
Maybe it's like 20-1 ETH to Bitcoin NFT.
Let's start with the first premise.
Okay.
Like, do NFTs
Come back.
to a place where these things are still a place to speculate with money and actually make money?
I'd be so happy.
I'm 50% on that. Like,
I'm 100% on it.
cool.
Wow.
So
Tell me more.
So I don't know if you guys noticed, but anytime an L1 does well, where does that now newfound new money go? It goes into like the meme coins of that same ecosystem and the NFTs of that ecosystem. So
Well, there's only a few that have NFTs. So there's only so many examples of that.
yeah, I mean, Bitcoin has ordinals.
Yeah.
Solana has NFTs.
Right.
But I think if and when ETH has its like major move,
Point being, when the big tokens do well, people need a place
yeah,
to
they'll
go
be like,
gamble.
I got
and-
some extra
and
cash.
do something higher risk.
Okay, let's say I agree with you. I do actually, but let's say I agree with you, and then let's just assume that does happen. Does that happen with the former Grail projects, or does it happen with
Exactly.
like new NFTs that we don't even
My
know about?
concern is it's the latter.
Yeah, I could see it going both directions, or
People
maybe like a
love
combination.
like that new energy.
Yep.
Think about it this way: when NFTs first came out, right? Most of the ones in the next cycle, like if you look back at like there was CryptoPunks, there were our Curio cards, and there were a bunch of others. When NFTs really started ripping, whenever that was, 2020, 2021, whatever, most of the old school ones died, never resurrected themselves. But a few had a strong enough narrative that they came back to life. But the majority of focus was on everything else that was new, because there's new blood, there's new energy, there's new founders behind them, there's new people pumping them, there's new marketing. Bored Apes, the list goes on. So I think what we'll see is something similar where the majority of what existed in the last cycle will die. A handful will be resurrected out of like memes and founder-led marketing for the ones that still have teams that care. But most of those teams have abandoned those projects, sadly. And so most of those projects will remain dead.
I think
And a bunch of new money will be made. And the key, in my opinion, would be to actually get, play the meta better this time around if you do want to invest in NFTs. I shouldn't even say invest in NFTs,
Yeah.
but you know what I mean.
Yeah, so I think
That's my plan.
I think there's 3 types of NFTs that have existed that will do well. One, the tier 1 ones like punks. I'm a punk holder, so I'm biased, but I think those will continue to do well. I think 2, ones that use the native technology to create. So basically look at like autoglyphs or fidenzas, people who use, native technology to create the NFT. And then 3rd, the ones that evolve. So you see Pudgy Penguins, they've kind of taken a unique way to take the IP that they have and try to grow it into a brand. They're evolving.
Mm-hmm.
And outside of that, I hope the other ones don't really, do well, because we don't want to see the same games being played. We'd like to see some kind of evolution there, I think.
But yeah, also don't forget about like, it's all just numbers, right? Like how much new money is flowing in, and it's dilution. It's dilutive for the whole ecosystem. So, you can't expect to see all-time highs broken on all the projects again. You just can't. But let's see how many new players enter the game. That's the key question.
But I guess you're right. There might be some new memes that like pop up that do well.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah,
Like,
I think
there
we're
always
gonna.
are.
I think we're gonna like find out, like, because I think a lot of people assign that label to their NFT projects, the Grail. Like,
Yeah.
This is a Grail project. We're gonna learn what is a Grail and what isn't. And like, I don't think we would have called Pudgy Penguins like one of these Grail projects.
No, but
it,
they evolved. They like, yeah.
okay, but it is like a Grail in that it survived the last cycle and is probably going to a new high.
Right. Maybe. I think so.
Yeah.
Or maybe it already has. I don't know if Pudgies were going for 10 ETH before. Is that what they're going for now? Probably.
so.
Yeah.
All right. Prediction number 7. Binance will lose the number 1 spot position for spot trading with competitors OKX, Bybit, Coinbase, and BitGet contending for leadership. Coinbase's futures market, perps, may exceed 1 billion daily volume as regulated index inclusion becomes key.
Yeah,
I think we
feel
like this one.
This is pretty obvious.
Yeah, we're in Coinbase because of this, that Binance would potentially lose leadership. Coinbase has their Bahamas entity, which is going to allow them for perps trading. I just saw in my Coinbase login, it was like apply for perps trading, just a few quick steps, and
Cool. You're a resident of Palau as well.
yeah. So I haven't used it yet. Still going back and forth between Barcelona to do my trades on DYDX. Prediction number 8, stablecoin market will reach a new all-time high above 200 billion. USDC will reverse market share losses against, I assume, Tether, indicating a shift towards more institutional adoption, especially on emerging layer 2 chains. So USDC has been kind of slowly declining. Tether still dominating market share. And I don't think there's any surprise that we should hit all-time new highs on stablecoins. It is the killer app. I think we tend to agree on that of crypto.
For now.
For now, we'll see. I don't know. We'll see if it pops up in Argentina soon. And I guess interesting to see if USDC can gain some ground. I know that's my preferred method of using a stable coin. Any thoughts on those ones, guys? Are pretty much agreed.
That one, like, I'm less certain about. Like, some of these, they're just like taking obvious, calls.
Those
Like,
aren't hot takes.
but like that one is basically saying like new money is going to flow in, which I'm hopeful for, and I don't know. I hope so.
Okay. Prediction number 9. DEXs will hit all-time highs in spot trading market share, driven by fast blockchains like Solana and wallets enabling automatic transactions, promoting on-chain trading and self-custody. Yeah, I think that's a pretty common one.
Right.
No. Prediction number 10: remittances will boost blockchain use with Bitcoin staking on the Lightning Network, offering yield opportunities through new user-friendly staking tools. So, as I understand this, is God, I'm trying to remember this guy's name. He was a former president of PayPal, but he's trying to make the Lightning Network more user-friendly for doing transactions specifically. And I think what his mode is let's say I send US dollars in, and in an instant they get converted to Bitcoin, and then they get converted to, say, euros to send to you, Eric. And in there's a liquidity pool of all those things, and maybe there's some cheap staking yield to have by providing liquidity for people to use it as a transaction. So I don't know where that stands. But remittances, I don't know. I've never thought of Bitcoin as like this main use case, but
I just feel like that's stablecoin use case.
yeah, why wouldn't you just send stables?
I think so. But I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that that comes true, because it would be nice. It would be nice for Bitcoiners to capture some yield. And
Yeah, I mean, they're going to need to have some on-chain activity in order to provide for their own security down the road.
well, the activity they have now, they don't even want. Like Ordinal's activity, they're just like, what is this shit on our chain?
Prediction number 11, breakout blockchain game may surpass 1 million daily players. Immutable X is poised to climb market cap ranks with key releases and Immutable Passport, streamlining wallet usage and enabling wider adoption. So he's definitely calling out Immutable X as like the platform where people build these AAA games, and maybe one of them will hit it big. There was certainly a lot of money that went in last cycle into these, right? I don't know how many billions
Yep.
went into these games.
Well, how many users did that Filipino game?
Oh, Axie?
capture?
I don't know how many users.
Oh, you just built a business around it without any knowledge.
I didn't do it. Invested in one. But yeah, I mean that was also a certain type of game where like farming.
There was literally DeFi with pictures.
DeFi with like a little bit of gaming. And people were farming, and they were doing it for income. And it only worked for players in like Philippines and Indonesia and whatever. I mean, that being said, if you would have bought their respective tokens, you would have made quite a bit of money. But I think their case here is, the players will play, and they'll play this game and may not even know that there's some crypto abstraction in here.
I mean, isn't this like the truism across crypto, where it's like mainstream will come so long as you just don't know that it's crypto,
right?
Because like I think you can like poll any population of true gamers, and they're like, I hate crypto.
Yeah. So my take is that I don't know if it's going to be a new game. I don't know what the hit rate is on these like big games. I gotta imagine it's fairly low. But I think the biggest jump up will be an existing game that integrates it in, and the players who already play it don't really know. If you're playing Fortnite, now you have a wallet with things, and there's an exchange where you can trade with other players, and that's all they know. And I think the biggest jump will come from existing player networks within big games, and maybe one of them kind of crosses the chasm and says, we're going to integrate this. We're not going to say one peep about it, that it's crypto or NFTs, or you have a wallet, or you have a private key. It's just going to be integrated into it. And
this is one that I probably feel less than 50% probability on, but I am still hopeful. And I see the rationale. I think there are a lot of games where like players do acquire like these rare things that they do sell like on black markets and stuff. Like, of course, crypto would be good for this.
I think it reminds me of, trends take longer to come into play, but their impact is typically far larger than you expect. And I feel like this is going to be one of those things. Okay, prediction number 12, I think we can skip by pretty quickly. Solana is projected to become a top 3 blockchain by market cap, TVL, and users, potentially surpassing Chainlink's TVS with its Pith Oracle as DeFi TVL surges and ETF interest goes.
Might pass Ethereum.
No, sir.
Come on. Come on.
It's got to pass XRP and Binance Chain, which it's not far off from now. So I don't think that's
I was really hoping you'd get triggered by that.
too newsworthy. I got a little triggered.
Yeah. Okay.
I gave you my most confrontational.
Yeah, that
part
was
of me.
pretty.
No.
That was pretty.
It's getting hot. He said, "Come on."
Prediction number 13, DPIN, which is decentralized physical infrastructure networks, especially HiveMapper and Helium, will see increased adoption with HiveMapper mapping significant distances and Helium's 5G network expanding rapidly, offering low-cost, effective alternatives to traditional infrastructures. So basically, HiveMapper is paradox trigger. You throw on a webcam, or not a webcam, a dash cam, which you buy from HiveMapper, and it basically recreates Google Street View for you.
Yeah, I'm less than like 10% probability. I'm like less than 5% probability on this. Like this has nothing to say about like the coins of DPIN. DPIN coins, my fucking moon. But like the actual use case of this,
I don't know, like,
bearish on.
So I operate in an industry where it's pretty much oligopoly. Like we advertise on the largest places in the world, and you got kind of Facebook and Google, and they're your benevolent dictators. And if you start any online business, you have a benevolent dictator. If you're e-commerce, it might be Amazon, or it might be Facebook or Google. If you have a site that gets organic traffic, your benevolent dictator is Google. Like you always have one in your business, and you're kind of trying to. You make your most money from them, but you're also trying to de-risk from them. Mm-hmm. And so I think in these areas where you see like an oligopoly type market structure where these services are only available from 3 companies, there might be emerging opportunities where people would prefer to have, a decentralized network that's a little more permissionless than, say, Facebook deciding if you can advertise or not, Amazon deciding to clip your listing, and Google deciding to, push you down in search results.
I mean, I see the use case. I just don't think it happens this cycle. But yeah. I see the use case.
Okay. Prediction number 14, new accounting standards will boost corporate crypto holdings. Coinbase will report layer 2 revenue as base protocol grows. By 2025, a major financial entity may launch a quasi-public blockchain with public chain connectivity. So I think this involves, like if someone holds Bitcoin and it goes down, you have to write it off as a loss.
Well, that already changed, like literally today.
Right, and then if it goes up, you can't book a gain.
Yeah. So in like the Federal Accounting Standards Board or whatever, FASB, literally just changed it, I think, within the last 48 hours.
Oh, really?
Yeah, this rule where it was an intangible, it was like an indefinite live intangible asset. It just changed.
Cool.
Or it's changing in December of next year, I think. So the idea is like you're going to be able to treat it as a commodity, and you can like market to market.
I think Base also announced potentially new financial products, or Coinbase announced new financial products, bringing existing ones on chain, but potentially creating new ones on chain, whether that's bonds, other types of investment vehicles, or synthetic assets that represent real world assets. And they want to put it on Base, their layer 2. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, our thesis in Coinbase was that was going to be a revenue driver. So I don't think there's any surprise there. We kind of believe in that one.
Yeah, this is a pretty good one though. That I don't think they buried the lead on this, because this is like actually happening, and I think it's pretty rad.
And the market is probably still undervaluing.
Yeah, I agree.
Agreed. Okay, last one. KYC compliant DeFi apps led by Uniswap will likely surpass non-KYC ones, attracting institutional volume and enhancing protocol fees, which may boost Uniswap's token value. I don't really have any like strong opinions here, except I would like permissionless DeFi apps to continue to exist, but it's hard to deny a world where
could it still be permissionless with a KYC element to it? I think so.
No.
I mean, like permission, like the KYC could just be to make sure you're paying your taxes, but still permissionless.
Well, I think it's meant for people who are money laundering or involved in terrorism. That's what is on the surface layer of AML and KYC. But that being said, it is a tool for a government to use as they see fit. And I don't know what could happen in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. I don't want to end up with the same financial structure that we have now. It'd be nice to have permissionless DeFi apps available to anyone across the globe, regardless of who you are, what your political beliefs are, etc. That rounds up their predictions.
All right. What do you got?
I was curious, where do you guys see total crypto market cap getting into? We're probably, I don't know where we are now. Do we like peak out around 2 trillion?
No.
2 trillion is
What?
FUD, my friend.
No. What last
Yeah.
cycle?
Oh, 4.
Oh,
4?
Yeah.
Okay, so where
like,
are we going to
fuck.
peak out next cycle?
this cycle?
Yeah, this cycle.
Sorry.
We're currently in this cycle.
That's a good question.
Where are we going to peak?
Yeah.
It's a good question.
What was the jump from the previous cycle to
Well,
the 4?
I actually don't know off the top of my head.
1 to 4?
Probably 1 to 4.
Something
it
like
was
that.
1 to
We're
4.
at like 1 point something now.
My guess would be, well, think about it. If Bitcoin peaked at 20 and then 69, so yeah, I would say it was probably about that. Maybe a little less. Maybe it was less than 1. Maybe it was 750 to 4.
I mean, I
Whatever.
think the common
So-
prediction is like we hit the $10 trillion mark.
Yeah, we're
is
at
like
1.7,
Okay.
just shy 1.7 trillion right now.
So we're talking a 5x from here.
I think 10 to 12 is a fair range, but I also expect diminishing growth
Yeah, I'm thinking the same thing.
over time.
I'd be-
Like, I don't
I'd be,
expect to go to 12.
I'd be
to honest.
trimming. I'd be trimming before
Yeah.
that point.
Yeah, maybe 8 to 10.
I would love to see it.
We'd all love
Like
to
this
see it.
cycle is such an ambiguous term, right? Because like,
I know.
what does this really actually mean? Because I don't think we're gonna see this like
Steady.
up only for 4 years with no downturn kind of thing,
Yeah.
or even like 3 years, whatever you want to term like these cycles. But like, hard to say. I'm a fan of a blow off top, but like how high does that go? Really hard to just like slap a 5x on.
Yep. I think it's either going to be like 6 or 7 trillion or 12.
I mean, how
trillion,
about
like
just
it-
some like basic, questions? Where do you sell? How much of it do you sell? And then what do you move it into?
I honestly think that's a personal question in terms of like,
Right.
like I have my goals in terms of 3 metrics. How much cash do I want in bank account? How much passive income am I earning from my investments? And then third, how much does my house cost that I buy with cash? And those are the 3 things. And so if I hit those, it would be dumb of me to not take a step back in being fully invested to just upgrade your lifestyle. Because if you have enough cash in the bank to withhold, let's call it a severe recession, you have enough passive income to pay your bills, and you have a home that you let's call it mostly own outright, that you want to live in for a long time, everything else is just,
I agree
Funny
with you, but this is like, I think you're right. But this is like where Markowitz is rolling over in his grave, or maybe he's still alive. But like Markowitz is like, no, everybody is utility maximizing. They just invest based on what the best risk and return investments there are. And like, ETH at 6K might get you to your place where you're talking about, but like it still might go to 10K,
Right.
and your house might not double.
yeah, agreed. And I mean, who knows when you get there, will you tilt?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Which I undoubtedly will. But like, my spreadsheet has like just a rolling calc of like every week when I update it, it's like you need this much post-tax to hit this much cash in the bank, this much passive income from investing in mailbox money, and then this much cash left over to buy, whatever house you want to buy. And so I think it's personal. I think when you hit that goal
It
or
is
even
personal.
near that goal, you don't need to make it all in one swing.
I think
Although
just having
crypto provides that
a
opportunity.
plan, right? We've talked about that a lot.
Yeah.
Just have the plan, work the plan. Hardest part is to work the plan when you get there. Just do your best.
I did see, you guys may have saw this on Twitter. Some guy posted that there was a nice timing of tops in the market when Google Trends volume for the word FUD hit 100 basically.
Yeah, there's other indicators like when Coinbase app becomes the #1 app in the App Store. Like these
Yeah.
are indicators that like everybody who's buying has already kind of gotten in the game.
I would like a nice
Yeah.
scorecard of like red, yellow, green, and maybe we can build one in the Discord together, where
There are a few sites that do that.
where it's like maybe there's 5, maybe there's 10, maybe there's 20 indicators that have
Yeah.
proven, and every month I'd be happy to update them. But just we remind ourselves, okay, there's 3 out of 10, there's 6 out of 10.
This is
and-
kind of like a Ben Cowan's risk metric, but like
Yeah.
our own metric.
Yeah, but it's not actually based on like price movement. It's based on the
It's based on like
Second
retail behavioral. I like that.
yeah, that'd be fun. So if anyone in Discord wants to build it, let's all contribute. If you see any of those or you've seen in the past, let's come up with a list of top signals. Maybe we're a top signal.
We might be.
Yeah.
Someone said that recently.
Well, we did launch
Something
a
about-
podcast near the top, but our first episode, I think Steven was like, "Yeah, this is gonna be a shitty year."
Yeah, I think that was the
It's gonna be
title
bad.
of the episode was like predicting doom in 2022.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
pretty good.
Should we? Yeah, I guess you could look at YouTube views for crypto channels. All right, where do we want to go to next?
Let's talk about your boy, Fareed.
Okay, so
And maybe even wrap there. I don't know if you had anything else, but
It's a
I
hard
want to dive
pivot.
into this.
A hard pivot.
It's a hard pivot.
yeah, but I think this is right up.
Take a good gulp of your beverage, people.
Yeah, let's do that.
Like,
Cheers, boys.
No, you too.
Cheers.
I meant the ones out there.
No, I'll do one.
So this is a very alfalfa topic. That's why it's a hard pivot, but maybe not too much for those who've been listening for a while. So Fareed Zakaria, he's a host of a show called The Global Public Square. He's a pretty strong. His skill set is in foreign affairs. But he's
You
on
like those?
I do. I do. I kind of listen to his show just to hear his
You've
take.
always been bullish Fareed.
Yeah, I mean he's
Yeah,
a
this
little
was-
too left sometimes
I'll
for
wait,
for
but-
me. But so his show's every Sunday, and he kind of spoke out about a non-foreign affairs topic, which was universities. And most of you guys that saw the news, these 4 university heads were up in front of Congress, and I think the most polarizing take was them asking a congresswoman asking, is calling for the Jewish people's eradication, does that violate your
It was specifically genocide.
genocide?
Yeah,
does that
they-
violate your code of ethics or any of your rules? And it was a lot of wish-washy topic. Some may call it nuanced, some may call it wish-washy. But let me just give you his take up front. America's top universities should abandon their long misadventure into politics, retrain their gaze on their core strengths, and rebuild their reputations as centers of research and learning. So this got like close to 40 million views, and I think it got popular because Fareed is very much an institutionalist. He's a globalist. He believes in large institutions and the value they provide, anywhere from alliances like NATO or institutions like the IMF, and just even institutions within the U.S., for example. But he's clearly aiming his sights at an institution like higher education and saying you're fucking up. And I think that's what gave it some credibility to people, and we're kind of a non-expected view. I'll kind of go on with some of his like detail. I got a few bullet points here. He basically says they should stop focusing on excellence and instead on diversity and inclusion. The pervasive goals are political and social engineering and not academic merit. We've continued to downplay academic merit, and their response has been to double down. Some even saying we'll eliminate the SATs. And he argues that the people who will suffer are these very bright but poor students. So the same people that they're trying to help with diversity and inclusion programs are the people they're in fact hurting by placing such an emphasis on diversity and inclusion and not actually academic merit and other objective measures. He goes on to talk about the great inflation on humanities, which actually don't provide any value. And he goes off to cite these studies that interest in college and higher education is declining over time. Maybe
Big time.
You have a bunch of people, we talked about this, saddled with student loans for humanities degrees that they actually can't get an ROI on for the loan they took. For example, you can now major in diversity and inclusion. I don't know what job you get for that other than president of Ivy League school.
Well, they have that job in a lot of companies now, actually.
So, and he says, like, for all the diversity and inclusion, they don't address the diversity of political views.
Right.
And he says, I think he quoted a colleague that said, the point of college is to keep you physically safe, but mentally unsafe.
Yeah,
because
so
you-
he
you're
quoted
provided-
Van Jones.
Van Jones. That's right.
I loved it. I'll just repeat it because it really
Yeah,
landed
you got it
for
word
me.
for word because
The point of college is to keep you physically safe, but intellectually unsafe. And this is no longer accepted. Now, the point of college is to keep you away from ideas you disagree with and allow you to just like wallow in your trauma and your story. And that is the tragedy of this generation and college is like the more I wallow in my misery of my story and my trauma, the more attention I receive, the less true it needs to be. It doesn't need to be true. And I'm protected for that. When instead I should be assaulted for my ideas and they should be challenged. My ideas only in a very intellectual way, whereas my physical safety should be paramount.
Right.
And I should never hear something about genocide because that's my physical safety. But my ideas should be extremely up for debate. The point of everything we do in America, in particular, is that the best ideas should win. And another thing that Fareed talked a lot about was just like America has always had the best colleges, the best college institutions, the best universities. Like that is like a core part of what America is known for is people coming from around the world to study at the best institutions. That is changing. People are losing trust. People are paying less money. People are not going to these universities at the degree and percentage of which they used to before. Attendance rates are down, and colleges are in big trouble. We actually have a Techstars company that's in higher ed and was talking about this in his pitch, is that colleges are in real trouble. They have to figure something out. And I think that's a multivariate thing. I don't think it's just as simple as like, oh, they became woke and now attendance rates are dropping. I don't think that's what it is. I think it's like a big
maybe
problem.
partly, but,
Maybe
but do you think the ROI part of it is definitely
Well, I think
part of that factor?
I think that's a whole episode, but like I think one core pillar of why college attendance is down is because it's not necessary anymore in a creator economy. So a lot of people don't want the types of jobs that required a college education before, and social norms around college education are changing. I actually think that's I just realized what you did. I just think that's bigger than perhaps the narrative that was like being, sort of delivered in this talk. That was the only disagreement I had with Fareed was just like the positioning of the argument. At the end of the day, I think the reason that the video went so viral is I don't think people know as much as you know about Fareed and his admiration for institutions. I think the reason the video went viral is because like, okay, I'm looking at this guy, looks Indian. He's on CNN, which is like super, lefty. And he's saying all these things that he's not supposed to say. Why is he saying these things? And it's very refreshing because I feel like I've been thinking about these things, but I feel like I'm not supposed to say these things. And yet this guy on CNN is saying these things. And I think that's why it went viral. It's a lot more simple.
Yeah, and you were texting.
I couldn't believe it.
You felt like a pendulum was shifting.
Yeah, so again, we talked about this in 2 episodes ago and our agreement in the fact that like the pendulum does swing, Eric and I, and you see these extremes, and a lot of the optimism I have is that a lot of people fear that it's only going to keep getting worse, and I have this belief that the pendulum will swing back and people will just be like, this is insane, and society will like self-correct, and people will begin to just be like, that's not cool. You're not supposed to be doing that, the same way they did in the other direction. And this is the first time I've seen something to this degree on like a CNN that was so refreshing and honest and based, which was just like speaking truth about the nature of what's going on in society and universities and victim culture, to be like, enough is enough, guys. Like, stay out of this lane and go back to what you're doing best, which is like be a research institution and recruit the next Einstein, to come from Europe. What are you doing, like trying to create safe spaces for every single, issue, and then ironically you lose yourself in it and you think you're doing the right thing. The universities think they're doing the right thing. They think they're saying the right thing by saying, well, it depends on the exact situation and the way in which the person is inciting violence against an entire race of people.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like another common theme in a different institution or a different lane where you see the hubris of well-intentioned people thinking they can be the main character in creating equities where they've never existed. So, they're trying to create a level playing field of outcomes and shout out to Thomas Sowell, I think his best argument for this is you take two identical twins or even just two children of the same household who have the same DNA, the same upbringing, the same socioeconomic status, the same education, and you will see two very different outcomes between those siblings. And, I think there's just this...
and yet we say the highest predictor of outcomes is zip code. So he's saying even within this nuance of like they're in the same zip code, they're in the same household, and yet the outcomes can be different.
Right.
Like we
and
have
they're
to
the same
accept
race.
that. We have to accept that. And people have trouble with that. They want no. The outcome should be exactly the same.
Right. And you have these new codes of conduct, safe spaces, trigger words, things like that. And those don't seem to be the way to create that path, but they're fully convinced that they are. So I don't know. I think it's like a recurring theme we've talked about on this podcast. And it reminds me of what Brian Armstrong did in Coinbase. What Fried is saying that these institutions need to do. We are not a politically based company. We are a product and mission focused company. And he's saying, stop the misadventures in the political agenda and just create a good product, a place where ideas get challenged.
And he got beat
research.
up for that. He's being pushed to have, every company is being pushed to have a political stance. And the ones that don't have been getting canceled. That's really interesting. That's really, I would almost say, like, it's just dysfunctional.
Well, let me ask you
it's
where
pathological.
Let me
There's
ask
a
you,
problem
if
there.
you believe that the pendulum is swinging back and forth, where do you think the pendulum is now? Do you think it's?
I don't think the pendulum is like doing this seesaw. I think the pendulum has been on an extreme end, and I think possibly by seeing a video like that, it's kind of like when we were like a couple of these events that happened earlier this year in crypto. We're like, is this, a signal? Is this the beginning of a bull run? I see that and I think, is this the beginning of a decrease in the insanity that we have been witnessing over these last few years? The division, the intolerance, the pursuit of tolerance, which is actually an ironic outcome of intolerance. Is this the edge of that?
I would argue that this is sort of like late cycle in terms of the pendulum swing back towards middle, because when it gets to Fareed, who's far left, that shows you that like the voices have actually spoken. This has gotten too insane. Let's get back to the fucking core of what these universities are supposed to do. I think we've kind of like peaked. I think we've peaked sort of like equal outcome insanity.
I think I'm saying the same thing for what it's worth.
Yeah. I think it's just a difference on, do you think this is the pendulum that is still swinging to insanity and is not peaked and going back? Like,
No,
that's what I'm
I think
talking.
we've peaked.
I think we've peaked and we're actually going back middle.
Yeah, I think that's what this is saying. Enough people have started to chirp around him that now he feels that he needs to be the voice of reason to say something.
Because what he said was right.
Yeah, what he said was right.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was just trying to imagine myself in the shoes of one of these presidents. And like, I consider you guys my best friends. There's a reason I surround myself by you. But like, if I take the average of the 5 people around the most, I am the average of them. But then imagine like a president of an Ivy League institution. Who are the 5 people they hang around the most and where they get the advice? They're in this little echo chamber. And granted, maybe we are too.
I think we are too.
But yeah, we definitely are, for sure. But how are they going to break free? Like maybe it's just like, let's get rid of them and put in a new group of people. But I don't expect them to change their views radically.
This is a politician, right? They're ultimately, they shouldn't be, but their position is like an elected official. And elected officials are there to represent the idea that is most popular of that time.
of their
And
constituency, which is
exactly.
like the students and the.
That's what
Yeah.
everybody wants to hear.
See, I never thought of him as a politician. I always thought of him as a biz dev person. You know, president of a university is supposed to raise money. And I think they quickly found themselves on the other end of the spectrum when the pendulum swings back.
Well, you just said the president's supposed to raise money. That's a politician.
All right, touche.
I mean, biz dev is politics.
You're right, you're right.
It's
So-
literally, they are there to put out and market the ideas of their constituency in order to find and recruit more people
Yep.
and then find and recruit more dollars. And the better they do that, and by the way, their little circle is not just the people at their universities, but those people are coordinated as well. Like those presidents that spoke, I'm sure there was a coordinated, what are
Absolutely.
you going to say? How are you going to say it? This is the question they're going to ask. How are you going to answer it? They all answered it exactly the same way.
Right.
I do think that those 4 institutions that were talking in front of the Senate or whatever, I think there's still like very positive ROI by attending these universities. I would still send my kid to Harvard, like in a heartbeat. I would.
The nuance of earlier was while college rates are dropping, if you're in like a STEM field, you need it. You need it. And like you almost entirely, unless it's like even they're like little savant engineers that don't need a degree. But like for the most part, like any type of doctor, any type of scientist, technologist, like you need the degree and you need specialty. You don't need a Yale degree though.
But like even like I would push back to one thing Nick said was like humanities are worthless. I mean, you didn't say this. You said they're
Right.
negative ROI.
Right.
But I don't think they're worthless. And I do think that like if you study philosophy at Harvard, that can be incredibly valuable still. And I would support my hypothetical kid going to study philosophy at Harvard. I would of course support that.
Do you think the ROI is based upon the educational rigor, meaning when they come out, they're a lot smarter and more capable than when they went in, or
Yeah,
is
why?
it based on the reputation that Harvard has
Both.
that it opens doors?
Both. I mean,
Well, they're giving A's to everybody
but
now.
obviously,
Did you see that?
Obviously, it's the latter. I mean,
I think the
obviously,
average
there's
grade at Yale, by the way, is like an A.
obviously there's a prestige factor that goes along with it. Like, oh my God, you went to Harvard.
Yeah.
That like opens more doors than going to SDSU
does.
did. Clearly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I would support that. And then I do
I mean,
think
you just got to teach them to kick the door.
I do think the academic rigor is stronger than SDSU's. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know for sure, but like I would
Let's
assume
assume
it
yes.
is. I would assume it is.
Yeah, I would argue the grade aside,
My
even
high
if
school
everyone's
was harder
getting
than
A's,
SDSU.
even the grades aside, like the professors, the level of curriculum is way higher.
I would
Like,
think.
for sure.
I think
No,
the
it is.
professors is where the problem is. Like Freed in his rant talks about how a white man studying the Constitution has no chance at becoming, department lead in history at Ivy League school.
Yeah.
No chance.
Yeah.
So
That's true.
it's not based on merit. It's based on diversity, inclusion, and maybe the ability to fundraise.
Well, the reason that happened is because it was only the white man who was getting those roles, and society believes that the way to solve that problem was to swing the pendulum in the other direction to equalize outcomes.
And I think soon, if not now, society is going to believe that it's like, oh, this should just be merit based because like enough people
'cause
have
this is just stupid.
like enough
Like, it's
people have
equalized.
opportunities, and then let's just give it to the best candidate because the best candidate will be good regardless of their skin tone.
Society
Like,
needs to like shed its guilt.
Yeah.
There's like a guilt being shed. And once enough of this madness has occurred and enough of the people that had the advantage suffer, I think people will be like, all right, say uncle.
Yeah,
And
so
you've had enough.
Jordan read my mind. He mentioned Coleman Hughes in the chat, modern day Thomas Sowell. So my question is, when will, got to make sure I word this correctly, like people who are pro-race relations, they're trying to uplift certain groups, when will they move on from we need to make sure, like an affirmative action type place, to no, the end goal is what Martin Luther King said, which is, we're judged
by the content of our character.
by the content of our character, not by the color of our skin.
But-
because
but
right
modern
now,
day people-
we're fixing the problem by judging by the color of people's
Modern day
skin.
people don't understand what MLK said. They literally have changed it. They have changed their interpretation. This is what Coleman Hughes talked about. For people that don't know Coleman Hughes is like a young black. Is he also an economist?
No,
Like,
I
no.
wouldn't call him an economist.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm interested because I don't know anything about Coleman
Academic.
Hughes, but just tell me how he's describing that
he talked about
we've
this in his
changed the
TED Talk.
interpretation of MLK's.
He talked about this in his
speech.
TED Talk because people choose to turn a blind eye to what MLK really said. And what MLK really said was he was essentially a proponent for color blindness. For
Right.
lack of a better term, color blindness
Right.
has been something that Coleman Hughes argues has been an effective way to deal with race issues.
Instead,
And
we've
this is a
heightened
young
our
black man.
acuity for color sensitivity.
Correct. And trauma culture, and we create these like safe containers, and I need representation for my belief and your belief and all the beliefs that exist. And MLK clearly said like a very pro colorblind stance on like that's the world that he envisions. If that was true, and if the people that are, today fighting for equal outcomes believed in what Martin Luther King said, then they would just follow that very clear vision of what he laid out. It's very clear. It's just like very, no pun intended, it's very black and white. It's just like this
Right.
is the correct path to dealing with this. Thomas Sowell has said the same thing. But today's society is not that's what I'm saying. Today's society is not representative of Martin Luther King Jr.'s ideal outcomes for how we handle racial intolerance.
Yeah, so like
and inequities.
The current framework is using characteristics of your physical appearance. So we've been using race, but like you could easily test this framework by switching in the color of your eyes or the length of your second toe. And it just shows how asinine a framework like that is. But then you put in a different framework where you're like the content of your character. And you could put a lot of things in there. You could be like, well, how honest are you? How much integrity do you have? You could go, how much skill do you have for this one thing that you're striving for, whether it's a degree, and also what motivation do you have? Like you can put in different contents of character in that framework, and it would work.
Yeah.
You could judge it on all those different metrics and evaluate someone better, but you can't put in other physical attributes in that framework. It just seems dumb, and I think that kind of illustrates how dumb the current framework is.
But when we've talked about this in the past, I mean, we almost talked this to death, but when we talked about this in the past, I think, I can't remember if it was either you or Steven, but like I was a proponent of applying to universities with just an ID number, and that was pushed back on. Why?
I don't think that's a bad thing. Would you remember why it was pushed back on?
I can't remember who was pushing back.
Okay.
But I remember that it was just like that wasn't a good idea because of X, Y, and Z. And I'm thinking like, well, that does remove, all the appearance style
If
characteristics.
I remember correctly, like it would be better with the ID number and a zip code, and that would be a better.
That's what we said.
A better framework.
We just said it lacked the nuance of like the important aspect of location, which is like a high predictor of
socioeconomic.
Yeah, but then you could argue that standardized tests are the way out for anyone growing up in a zip code that is lower socioeconomic status.
And if I think anytime you try to modify from there, you're essentially operating from this like guilt framework.
Yeah, and just and think about the opposite, not from the guilt framework, but from what are we trying to build, and how scary is it to move from meritocracy to I don't know what you call this. Maybe it's just a diversity inclusion where everyone feels safe and equal. To move away from a meritocracy sounds brutal. Like imagine having a company in which you have failing employees that you are required to keep. Like what happens over time to the productivity and the success of your company? It can't be great. So like as a country, as a society, it sounds scary to the further you away from meritocracy is scary.
Yeah, that'd be a terrible outcome. It'd be a failure.
Yeah.
It would just fail the company. I mean, if you look at most technology companies, corporate America companies, they cut the bottom 5-10% of the company every year to a certain degree. So it's like, or it just kind of works its way out, like the bottom, So, yeah,
I mean,
you have like true meritocracy in that.
I know.
sense.
I kind of feel like we have the right answer here. So like I don't.
I mean, we sure are missing the other side of this argument. Like, I wish we had someone that was, a host of this podcast that could bring heat on the other end.
I don't. I'd get over it pretty quickly.
I mean, I
boring.
could
It'd be-
easily argue the.
Yeah,
other
I could easily
side.
argue it.
Like,
I think I don't mind that because it's like I was of that opinion for so many years. I have no problem arguing the other side. I'd be happy to do it right now. I could just literally put the hat on and be that guy if you want. But I don't find it interesting because I don't find it honest. It's not honest.
It's definitely not first.
It's just like an emotional reaction based in like, it's so easy to just like ask a question and just like completely break down the argument.
Yeah.
yeah, it's not worth it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's
So-
see. Well, we're talking about race relations and meritocracy. The team in the chat's talking about new highs on Coinbase.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I like to see that more than anything else.
So side note, if you're watching this live or watching this YouTube video, give it a like. And also in the Discord, we're talking 2024 plans for the podcast. Let us know what type of content you like, don't like, want more of, want less of. And if you want to help us even more, give us the type of persona we should speak to on this podcast. If you think you're the perfect person, let us know. And we're trying to find one or two personas that we should kind of speak to and craft content around. So yeah, let us know your feedback. It'll be helpful for the last couple of weeks, end of the year.
Ooh. Yes, indeed.
So before we wrap up, who was the football player that was carrying the?
Are we going here?
I'm curious what your guys' thoughts
start
are.
with sports and end with sports. This is a funny one.
This is my favorite type of pod, sports pod.
So who was the football player carrying the McDonald's bag?
Tyreek Hill.
Tyreek Hill.
So this guy is probably the fastest player in the NFL today. He's maybe one of the best wide receivers of all time. He's amazing, and he was like filmed walking it before a game. He was walking with a bag of McDonald's in his hand, and people are wondering like, "What the fuck, dude? How is this guy? How is this elite athlete going to be eating McDonald's?"
The bag looked pretty light to me. Like
Bag
maybe
was stuffed.
maybe he's got a chicken Caesar wrap thing going on in there.
Chicken
There was
Caesar
speculation that
wrap.
the bag was actually just filled with cash.
Oh.
There he is.
There he is. Tyreek Hill leaves NFL fans shocked after turning up for Miami Dolphins clash versus Titans.
First
with
of all,
the
look how
bag McDonald's.
jacked he is. This guy probably works out so much and practices football for so much of his life as a percentage that like he could eat McDonald's.
It's a cheat meal. It
Yes.
doesn't affect
But
him.
before a game,
It doesn't affect him.
literally
guy
before a
probably
game.
burns
When
off
you're
3 Big
that
Macs a day.
fit, you can have multiple of these in a week and be
No, but I had a bit of a hot take on this. My hot take on this as like a higher level thing was that like if you're gonna be
Get ready, everyone.
if you're gonna be great at what you do the thing. Like you practice football. Like if Tyreek Hill is gonna be great at football, he practices football. You don't like diet your way to be a great football player. The same way you don't like meditate your way to be a great football player or a great investor. You fucking do the work. It's not like you do fucking cold plunges and you get good at football. And I feel like all of like modern guruism online is trying to like find these like little margins that are going to like take you to the place you want to be. And it's like, that's wrong.
Yeah, the take I saw on
That's
Twitter
a hot take.
was
I disagree.
Tyreek Hill eating McDonald's before a game, fastest person in the NFL, and you think your 10th cold plunge is going to make you more productive responding to emails.
Exactly.
I couldn't disagree more. You're both
Exactly.
wrong. First of all, I love Chad Johnson, Ocho Cinco. I think he's the guy that really started this McDonald's trend, though.
He was a great wide receiver in his own right.
Great wide receiver, Bengals, changed his name from Chad Johnson to Ocho Cinco. And, dude, he still to this day promotes his McDonald's diet. So he says it makes him strong. it builds like these calluses in his gut and his body, and that all the people. He's a funny ass guy. If you don't know him, you got to watch his videos. But he always makes fun of people that get injured. And he's like, it's because you're eating all that salad, man. It's because like you're not strengthening your body to make it resilient. You got to be able to handle and digest something like a McDonald's Big Mac. And he's hilarious. It's so good. So like in a sort of funny way, I don't disagree with him on that take. But may I present my counter argument?
I mean, I disagree with him on that take.
You're disagreeing with his.
Yeah, I mean, that's not what I'm even saying.
I know that's not what you mean. But let me go back to your take of like, you have to focus on the sport, no amount of like external body configuration.
Yeah, my take is to get good at the thing, you do the thing. You don't do like this other crap on the side.
The reason I think you do both. And the difference, but the difference is that today, like if you just look at like eras, over time, athletes have gotten better, faster in every single way, right? And I believe the reason for that is not because they're working so much harder at the sport and practicing more, although that's improved.
I think that's a big component of it.
I think it's a big component of it. But something that didn't exist before was like focus on body, exercise, weightlifting, adding that component for certain sports, like paying more attention. We have better science, better supplementation. We have cold plunges, we have saunas more readily available. I do think when you're talking about professionals, you're talking about minuscule micro percentages of difference in ability, and it's the small things that can make a difference. So you have to assume, I'm making an assumption with my argument that every player is doing the same amount of work in the sport and practice itself. And the thing that can like differentiate a player to be faster recovery, better game day performance is the better diet and recovery and not eating McDonald's. So while he's making like a case of like in a funny way of like, look at my McDonald's, I'm not saying players can't eat McDonald's and be okay. They totally can. But if I had to choose between the player that has a great diet and takes care of his body versus the one that treats it like shit, I'm choosing the player that takes care of himself every single time.
Oh man, I like where you're going with this, and I want to do a whole fucking pod on this because I like this whole topic. So what I find in elite performers, right? It's like much less to do with these like ancillary little nuances that you're describing. It's like a lot of guys who are even at that level have a completely different mindset. It's like a competitiveness that you see a difference between some like great athlete who's in the NBA, who's like plays for the Washington Wizards that you never heard of, who's obviously one of the top 400 best players in the world, but he's not fucking Kobe's mentality or MJ's mentality that's like, I want to compete against everybody, I want to beat you senseless.
Yes.
You know, like, and I find this to be true across any endeavor. It's like business, politics, or whatever. Like, I find that the highest corollary to success is this mentality that's like, I'm just going to fucking beat everybody.
I mean, MJ was cracking beers and smoking stogies on the golf course before lighting up the court.
Exactly. I actually would argue if MJ wasn't doing those things, he would have been an even better player. So if you took a clone of MJ and you had two different MJs, I'm going to choose the one that doesn't do those things. But back to Eric's like more like deeper point here of the discussion, I think that like these little things. So you just introduced a new component outside of body called mind, right? So body contains the things you do to get great at the sport and the things you do to recover and have good diet and exercise and all those things. Mind, if I had to guess, when you're talking about elite athletes, is 80% of the game.
Hold on. Like, let's just make it very clear what we're talking about here. I'm talking about what you focus on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, of course you're right. If you were completely Kobe mentality, you were literally Kobe, but instead of ever eating McDonald's, you ate perfectly and like treated your body perfectly. Of course, that's a better version of Kobe than Kobe. Mm-hmm. But I'm just saying that like modern guruism has like led our focus astray to think of the ancillary instead of the meat and potatoes of the task. That's what I'm saying.
I didn't know that. I would figure people were smart enough to know that you got to do the first thing first.
No, I think people are always looking for shortcuts,
Okay.
and they look for these
I can see
shortcuts
that. I see
in
what
like
you're saying.
weird directions that don't
So
apply.
there's like, if I do
That's-
10 cold plunges, I'll be better instead of just practicing.
Yes,
Yes,
that's what I'm
and
saying.
also like if you read David Sinclair's longevity book, if he offers all kinds of stuff, take rapamycin, do this, do that. But the two main things he says in the book, the biggest levers is work out vigorously every day to the point where you can't catch your breath and eat a little bit less.
Bingo.
So the reason that this type of stuff does really well is because there's nothing to be said that is interesting about the thing that matters. You just have to do it.
What did we talk about right
There's
before?
nothing to talk
What did
about.
we talk about right before we sat down to record this, Armand? You said, "What's the thing about dieting that you should do? Just eat real food."
Yeah, we talked about real food. Eric
That's
and I
the
sat,
fucking diet.
And we talked about the best diet is the real food diet.
Like you
we
don't
talked
need
about
to
it
do
for 30 minutes.
You don't need to do keto. You don't need to do this other crap.
You just eat food.
yes,
the real kind.
And I think
Does
that
bread count as real food?
and
Maybe sourdough.
let's not get into the
Maybe
nuance
I know.
too much there. But I think what I'm trying to say is like we've lost our focus. The focus should be on the 80%, not the 20. And I feel like in modern, like guruism online, we
because
focus
there's
on the
nothing
20.
to talk about. And so interesting content, interesting tips. When you go up to an athlete and you say, what's your secret? They're not going to say what they do say
lifetime of hard
often.
work.
So no, exactly. So they say that, and then the person says, "But give me the thing." And it's like that's really the thing. That's the boring thing. No one wants to hear that. But the thing would be, well, I do the cold plunge, or I eat this way, or I have a Theragun, and that helps me recover. Try the Theragun, or do these
funny.
fucking injections.
Saw this interview with Lewis Hamilton, and they were like, kind of asking him questions about how are you one of the greatest race car drivers of all time, and then they were like, but what about your jet lag routine? And he was like, well, I have a jet lag routine, but and he just answered the question, but you could tell he was thrown off. Like,
Yeah.
no, that's not what helps me become the best driver in the world. Like,
Right.
I've been doing this since I was a child, and that's all I did was drive.
People love that. People
Anyway.
love those details. I would argue, though, like assuming again that we have established a baseline of general equality of like I'm a professional, you're a professional. That means we made it to the major leagues of our sport, so we're good enough. The difference between us is not the physical. I believe it's the mind. I can guarantee you, like if you've ever played a sport, I know you have. Watch yourself when you turn it on and you get in the right frame of mind. You're invincible. You can kill somebody
So
in
this
your
is-
game.
this is
versus when you're in your head and you feel like shit. You could get destroyed by an 8-year-old in that moment.
No, but even like the level of your competitive nature is fluid, and also I believe it's like capped in a way because like I know people like that have played professional sports and made the Hall of Fame in professional sports. Like this is like in my life. This type of mentality is so different than like the three of ours even, and we're competitive guys. Like competing about everything to a point where it's like unbearable to even
Sick.
be around.
Yeah,
like
it's sick.
Like MJ even describes this, or like people around MJ describe like he would
Yeah, he turned a card game into a
like
a
losing at
freaking
poker. He would just
Yeah.
like turn into a fucking
demon.
that
Yeah.
like you don't even want to spend time with.
Right.
And like this is what I know about the highest performers.
It's
like
difficult to
mental.
compartmentalize that, right?
Speaking of-
How you do anything is how you do everything, and so they have to be on that level all the time. Sorry.
Speaking of high performers, I played pickleball with Steven this weekend.
Yeah, you did.
We both did.
We all did. Yeah. Oh, you weren't, but yeah.
Yeah, he was. He's clearly a high performer.
Yeah, he's very good at
He
pickleball.
plays.
He
like
was
every
also
day.
very-
He's in it.
Very generous
Professional
with
level.
us on his skill level.
Yeah, he
Nice.
could have smashed it,
It was,
a few
uh,
times, and he did.
Yeah, he was definitely serving us
Yeah.
softballs. It was me, Armand, David, and Steven.
That's good. I mean, that's
Yeah.
how you should play.
Yeah.
I think he was serving an ulterior motive, which is like if I get them hooked, maybe then I'll
Yeah.
have more.
Well, I feel like David was doing the same thing with our climbing. You know, like,
Yeah,
it was just
yeah.
like here,
Yeah.
isn't this fun, guys? Now I'm fucking hooked.
All
Yeah.
right, boys.
That was
Anything else
fun.
before we wrap up? I think.
Yeah, no, that was fun.
I will call out potential ETH Denver since it is kind of 2 months away. I know Paradox
2
mentioned.
months.
February.
What world are we in?
So Paradox
my
mentioned
God.
it in her paid comment. Thank you again, Paradox. But she wants to know who's going to ETH Denver.
Oh,
I think I'll be attending.
I'll be going.
When?
I think it's in February-ish.
February.
okay. I'll try
And
pull
the
it.
tickets are free if you apply, right?
Yeah, I just applied. I staked my Spork token, which is what they gave you for attending in the previous years.
Can we just make it easy for people and like post a sign up link in our Discord?
Yeah. Yeah, you can go into the Eat
Maybe
Denver
Jordan
channel.
can also include it in our newsletter.
Yeah, we have a
Ooh,
channel.
We have a newsletter.
We have a
guys.
newsletter. Jordan will post in the newsletter. We have a channel in our Discord where we're making plans for Eat Denver.
Yeah, so if you're out there and you still haven't joined the community, get on the newsletter, alfalfapod.com.
You know what I
hop in
want?
the Discord
You know what I want?
and come to ETH Denver.
I want the fucking party house.
I met my co-founder at ETH Denver, guys.
You did.
So let's
So-
get some new faces.
Yeah,
out there.
whether you're like a crypto native or crypto curious, I think it's a fun event to go to. And if you want to do it with people who are more like your peers than trying to like wander around yourself and try to pick up alpha, I notice it's much better to go with the crew. And
just come for the Alfalfa meetup and the Alfalfa crew.
yeah,
You don't even have
we'll,
to like
We'll
crypto.
definitely be doing that again.
Yeah, we'll do an event, and there's many events
But
going on.
it's a good time to get it brewed up, start getting the excitement
The
around.
snow. Yeah.
And,
maybe
uh,
we'll be in like the beginnings of some good
Maybe ETH will be
bowl.
over 2,300 by then.
2300.
Inshallah.
Inshallah.
And if
exciting.
you were pay attention to the tax loss harvesting segment of last episode, you would buy your hotel
That's
rooms
good
now.
Yeah, you have a very tight window to do that.
yeah. All right, guys, that was lovely. We are glad you joined us on the live, and if you didn't and you're listening to this on the podcast, come hang out with us Wednesdays at 5 p.m. PST. But no matter what, we love you. We thank you for being part of this with us. And we'll keep you updated with our schedule for the rest of the year. I know there's a lot of
I have a
traveling.
Christmas request.
Oh, what's your Christmas request?
Share this episode with a friend and tell your friends and family about the Alfalfa Pod.
Okay, I think that's suitable.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good night.
All right, guys. Love you much.
Thanks, guys.
See you.
See you later.
Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Happy Hanukkah. Kwanzaa. Bye.
Trigger words.